Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, our three forefathers. Moshe and Adam. Adam Harishon. The man created by God. Mashiach will be on a level higher than all those five.
Who will Mashiach be? What is his name? The school of Rav Shila said it is Shila. The school of Rav Yanai said his name is Yinon. The school of Rav Hanina maintained his name is Hanina. Hence there is no absolute conclusion, and that there are numerous possibilities as to what his name might be.
So watch these. Shehine Zeba. That's what it says in Shir Hashirim and Medrash. It's Kol Deidis are fake. Hine Zeba. So the Rebbe puts in parentheses who is coming. Hine Zeb Melech HaMashiach Ba. He's coming.
Revolutionized the concept once again of Mashiach, specifically in the early 80s, and said it is time to call upon Mashiach. We want Mashiach now. That in something this small, one can reach the whole world. We call it technology. And it's great technology. But we never stop for a moment to think, you know what, Mashiach
comes to town, he doesn't even know who's Jewish. He has to start looking and finding out and asking questions. So there's like everybody's just the same. And then he can pick out and find the Yid and get into the mitzvah. When that Jew is doing the mitzvah, it's so much more part of the world. So Mashiach is in a situation of exile himself.
Like a lion, to grab the mitzvahs.
The Rebbe took on a whole new role, and especially the last 2 years. Stunned. The Rebbe said 30 years ago that the Mashiach's effect on the world and people are beginning already to make it now. The Rebbe didn't say Mashiach completed this. Me'ein ma'imad u'matzav, it's the starting of it. It's our way of going out to greet Mashiach. Because the moment Mashiach himself stands on the roof of the Beis HaMikdash and he tells the Jewish people, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. The time of redemption has arrived.
Whether we're going to build it down here or it's going to be built up above in heaven is a debate between the sages. But generally we see it as, it's not a contradiction, but rather it's going to be a combination of both.
But his primary objective is to restore the integrity of Torah.
Upper part of the world is where Eretz Yisrael and Har Sinai is. That's where the Torah was given, which includes Europe, which is up in that upper half of the world. The lower half of the world is the United States. Hashem wants to have a home in the low. Holiness will come from the lowest place. Not only will it also reach the holy place, but holiness will become the world will become so holy that the lower points of the world will become the source from where the higher places are gaining their inspiration. So everything will flip over. The lowest will become the highest.
Not just for the Jewish people, Mashiach is for the whole world.
Here's the thing, Mashiach's influence on the world. Mashiach's flag is finally hoisted. It's finally been waving. Because Hashem and Mashiach are working obviously in unison. So it's more like a spiritual kind of an effect that Mashiach is having on them.
To arise like a lion, to do the will of God, the mitzvahs of Hashem.
The name of Hashem, which is going to be revealed when Mashiach comes, when there is no more concealments and no more darkness. That this prophecy is now beginning to take hold in the world. This government, it's like insane. It fell 5 times. They try and it falls. They try and it falls. They try and they fall. It's like a slippery chair that no one can sit on. It's like it doesn't make any sense. Every time they try to craft it together, it just crumbles. And like they made a final attempt, and you see that every one of these attempts is obviously a substitute for Mashiach. How do you see it? On his throne, a foreigner will not sit. And when the time comes for that throne to be seated by the real king, Mashiach needs to be accepted by us. He cannot appoint himself as king over us. He cannot do it. It's not kingship. Kingship must come from the people. It cannot come from anything other. It's a voluntary, exciting, joyful element. When you recognize the awesomeness of who this is, you give yourself over from your entire self. You say, my identity is I belong to you. You're my king and I'm your subject. And this is the only explanation I can explain will win, because God is truth. And truth always wins over falsehood. So that's the inspiration, soldiers of truth. If we are the communicators of truth, and if we stand for what's real, doesn't make a difference if it's just a few. Shvuayim Shisha. Actually, in the Yotzer I saw it says Shvuayim Shiva. I don't know what that means. It's our way of going out to greet Mashiach.